Okay, I'm just gonna prove that I'm here. I've just filmed this video, like part of it, and I had a bit of a technical issue and it stopped recording and it didn't save to my camera roll, so I've got to start the video again. But basically, today I'm watching Studio Wiring and Routing Audio Interface and Analog Gear by the YouTuber Sean Devine. And yeah, it's more like studio work and stuff. I've done 6 videos now. This is my 7th. And yeah, basically, when I did the earlier videos, I was doing more typing and writing about my like for evidence. But I think it would be better for me at the moment to just pause the video and talk in the middle about what I've learned and what's going on, because as you might have noticed, I've become a bit more confident in talking in these videos, because at the start I was really bad. Like, if you look back into my music theory videos, some of them don't have sound because I was in the college classroom and people was talking, so I couldn't. But some of them, I was in a quiet space, but I was a bit too shy to speak. And then when I started doing the music tech videos, like, I do have to kind of talk in them, but I didn't talk as much. And as you can see, I was very, I didn't really know what to say and a bit shy, just a bit, like weird about it. But now I am talking way much more and I know what I'm talking about. So, yep, I'm just going to pause the video, and if I want to say something, then I'll say it, and then, yeah. And then if I need to revisit this video back after to remember some things, I will. But yeah, and this can kind of prove, because one of my other skills for my, oh my god, this video is already 2 minutes long. I'll hurry up. My other skill is to try and get more confident. So this is kind of showing that I'm becoming more confident talking in front of people, because that was one of my things to create YouTube videos and to become more confident in talking in front of people. So yeah, now I'm going to get into the video because this video is getting way too long already. Okay, here we go.
Hey, what's going on out there? I'm Sean Devine. Hope you all are doing well. Today's video, we're going to be breaking down my studio audio routing and cable setup. Get a lot of questions from you all about how everything is interfaced in my studio and how I'm getting everything to work in this way. And I want to provide some tips for you all in your own setups. A lot of you out there are not going to have the same equipment as me. That's perfectly fine.
As I did say in the video when it got deleted, I'm sure I've seen something like this before at college. It's not exactly the same, obviously not the same brand probably. I'm not sure if I have, but like this type of thing that covers the mic, like I might have seen this before, but I don't quite remember. So let's carry on with the video, but I'm sure I've seen them before.
All this stuff is going to interface in a very similar way. You're going to be able to pick up some things, hopefully from seeing the ins and outs, no pun intended, of my setup. I've talked about this in a previous video. I'll put a link to it if you want to check it out. But I have a single Thunderbolt 3 connection on the MacBook Pro, which is what I'm using currently. That goes into a hub. So the interface is connected through USB to the hub. And then that is obviously running all my digital audio out of, the software environment, the DAW and Logic Pro. The microphone.
These things, I don't remember seeing much of them. Maybe it's because it's a different... Oh wait, no, I've probably have seen these before. But it's a different model, so it can get a bit confusing at times. But yeah, I'm just recording this extra so I can remember. Yep, okay, let's go.
Through USB to the hub, and then that is obviously running all my digital audio out of the software environment, the DAW and Logic Pro. The microphone is connected through obviously XLR, balanced XLR, to my preamp, which is the Aphex channel. And so then I'm using the AES output from the Aphex, and that goes into the AES input of my RME UFX. If you're not familiar with AES, it's a digital connection type. It looks like an XLR cable, but it's just better for me just to go ahead and keep that digital connection coming from the preamp into the interface. I also have a microphone set up in my vocal booth. I'm going to try to show you guys the back of the desk, all the wiring.
It's a lot of
pretty
wires.
big jumbled mess back there, but at least it'll give you an idea of how all this stuff is patched in. But I have that going into the wall, and then I have a balanced quad mic cable that goes back there. And once again, that's just an XLR phantom powered input on the
On any of the recording studios or music pods that I've been in at college, I've never actually seen them be in the wall, so that's something new for me. Oh, actually, I have seen on stages in Broadway, like ages ago, like, they did have, I think, at the front of the stage, like a wire where you plug it into the floor, I think, like, of the stage, and then you can control it somewhere there. I think I've seen it, but I've never seen them actually in the wall, so that's something new. Cool.
UFX that I'm using to preamp for that. And I can also switch out my Aphex channel and patch that in for the mic in the booth. So let's talk about monitoring the Event 2030s coming out of my main output on the UFX, which if we go to Total Mix, which is what I use to route everything. My main output here is for the Event 2030, and then speaker B is just another output on the back of the UFX, and that is routed to my NS10s, which are powered by a Hafler preamp. Just uses standard speaker wire to power those, and then we actually have a balanced TRS coming out of the Hafler. Both of those are linked together, meaning whenever I control the volume of those, it will correspond here in the UFX, which is pretty cool. And, you know, if I mute them, they'll both be muted. And I can turn speaker B on and off with a button here in Total Mix, which is corresponding with my remote for the RME. Through the wall, so I have a subwoofer. You'll see down here in Total Mix that when I select listen, which is a setting I have for my monitoring, it will just turn up this output to 0, sending, you know, whatever signals coming out of the software to the subwoofer, which is connected through a TRS connection. So I have TRS going to the back of the room for the sub, as well as so that I can run a headphone monitoring signal in the booth. While we've got the Total Mix open, let's just go ahead and talk about this for a second, because this is a
Okay, so there's a lot of equipment here that I've never really, well, I have heard of. I might have seen them before, but I don't quite remember. So this is all very new to me. By the way, sorry for the really bad recording. My screen recording is not working at the moment. So I've seen like pianos, keyboards being like connected to things before. Like we've got that at college as well. Yeah, I think maybe it's because it's all different equipment to the videos that I've watched before, maybe, that I just don't recognise some of it. But yeah, let's carry on watching and see what happens. I've got 5 minutes left of this video, so yep.
Pretty deep interface, and it takes some time to get the hang of and get set up. But once you have kind of a template built for yourself and a lot of these snapshots, I've got snapshots for like my tutorials, do a live broadcast. Obviously, when I'm tracking, I'll have things set up to send phantom power to the mic in the booth, to, you know, have certain mixes for the headphones. This is the one for my screen cap, so when I'm recording things here, I can just set all that up and it will recall them instantly. But up here, you've got your hardware inputs. So you see like my Fusion, which we're going to talk about how that's routed in just a second. But I've got my instruments like the DeepMind, the Access Virus Indigo, the Rode mics, all that stuff is up here up top. The middle is going to be your software playback, and then the bottom is going to be your outputs as well as your monitoring outputs.
Wait, let me just rewind that.
The Rode mics, all that inputs. So you see like my Fusion, which we're going to talk about how that's routed in just a second. But I've got my instruments like the DeepMind, the Access Virus Indigo, the Rode mics, all that stuff is up here up top. The middle is going to be your software playback, and then the bottom is going to be your outputs as well as your monitoring outputs. All right, so we'll talk about the Fusion. Get a lot of questions.
So, bottom is the outputs, and I've just completely forgotten that again. Oh,
The Rode mics, all that stuff is up here, up top.
Rode mics.
The middle is going to be your software playback. And then the bottom is going to be your outputs as well as your monitoring outputs.
Yes.
All right, so we'll talk about the Fusion. Get a lot of questions about how this is patched in. I am mixing and mastering pretty much exclusively in Logic Pro X. So I have this routed using the I/O plugin. But first, let's just talk about physically in terms of hardware, what you need to use the Fusion with your audio interface. You're going to need both open input channels as well as open output channels on your interface so that you can send your signal out of the DAW or out of the software into the Fusion and then come back into the interface so that it can be processed that way.
There's a lot more cables than I thought there was going to be. There's a lot of things plugged in there. So yeah, that's a lot of stuff.
That's done and you're in Logic Pro. There is a plugin utility that's available called the I/O plugin.
I have used Logic before, but not like to this extent.
And what this will do is it will route the output and the input back into Logic. It will calculate whatever latency. It will offset that and then allow you to hear what's being processed with the Fusion. You'll see in my outputs, if I click down here, it says to Fusion, and that is for output 5 and 6 on the back of the RME. So I'm routing that out, and then once it goes through the Fusion, it's coming back in on input 1 and 2 on the UFX. So all we have to do in Logic is just select the corresponding output and input, and then place that on the stereo bus.
I just had to stop the video because someone was at my door. So, okay, I'm 6 minutes into this video. I'm going to rewind it a little bit because, yeah, okay, here we go.
So I'm routing that out, and then once it goes through the Fusion, it's coming back in on input 1 and 2 on the UFX. So all we have to do in Logic is just select the corresponding output and input, and then place that on the stereo bus or whatever you want to process. Another piece of external hardware that I get a lot of questions about is how I have things routed to my Clarity M, which is a really great monitoring tool that allows you to have like a vector scope. You can see, you know, frequency response, LUFS, all that stuff, and I can monitor everything in the studio. And so the way that I'm using that is, once again, through the UFX, I have the AES output on the RME routed to the AES input on the Clarity M. So you'll see down here in my output right here, this is on the UFX going to the Clarity M. And then I just have that set to 0 so that everything that's coming in, you know, you're going to hear it just as it's supposed to in terms of level. You don't want to apply any EQ or dynamics or whatever so that you can monitor all that leveling as is and accurately throughout the entire studio setup. As far as cabling, you know, I'm not a real stickler on using like all Mogami or really expensive cables for everything, although I would highly suggest using balanced cables. So I do have, you know, like a Mogami mic cable and some other high quality cables for certain things. But otherwise, just go for balanced. You know, if you can use XLR. I had some issues early on with cabling because I wasn't using balanced cables and didn't even realize that they weren't balanced. And you'll find that you can get some noise and just some lower quality results with certain things that way. You know, if we're chasing all the results in terms of mixing and everything else.
I'm not sure if this part I could really do much about because at college we have just a certain type, I think. But this could be useful if in the future I'm going to buy some things, like if I wanted to have a home studio, or for if I'm like having my own radio show and I could bring in my own equipment. I'm not sure if you could do that, but yeah, so
the way that this stuff is connected does make a difference in terms of how you're monitoring. All right, y'all, so I think that covers the basics of my cabling and routing setup in the studio. Hope this helps you and gives you some inspiration for how you can connect everything in your setup. If you have any input or if you have any specific questions about something I didn't cover, feel free to leave a comment below.
Okay.
If you
Thank you to this YouTuber, by the way, because that was a very good detailed video of his type of equipment. I'm watching loads of different types because I wanted to, let me just go to that. I wanted to learn about different types of equipment because there's not just one type. But this type is very different to the type that is at college. But I don't know, in the real world, I'm not sure what type they would have. So it's good to learn about different things. I've learnt a lot from this video, and I've spoke quite a bit in between clips. But yeah, I've learned good stuff. But thank you so much for watching. Please go show this YouTuber some support. Because I've just reacted to his video and it's very good. So thank you. Bye.